Welcome to Spirit Club, a podcast and community where we talk about what's really running the show, your inner world. I'm Angel, your host, your guide, and your spiritual bestie. Around here, we're all about doing the inner work because your outer reality is only ever a reflection of what's going on within. We practice radical ownership, freedom in faith, surrendering our path to God, and trusting our intuition like our lives depend on it. Because honestly, they do. So take a breath, open your heart, and let's dive in. Welcome, Spirit Club. Today we have on the show Phil Kobald, a meditation teacher, author, and fellow podcast host of Holistic Circle and Spiritual Conversation. Phil recently wrote a book on spiritual parenting, which I'm sure is something a lot of you are currently living. So I'm really looking forward to diving into this topic and getting to know you more. Welcome, Philip.
Thank you, Angel. First of all, thank you for this lovely guided meditation you made in the second before. So I'm coming in relaxed and hope I will energize throughout the session. And welcome to your viewers.
Amazing.
Thanks for having me.
I'm happy to have you here. And can you share with those listening where you are? Where are you in the world? Where are you recording from?
Sure. I'm a small country in Central Europe called Austria. But I podcast only for the US, so basically mentally I'm spending my whole day in the US. But for real, I'm located in a small, tiny, but rather beautiful country. And Schwarzenegger, he's Austrian.
Oh, hey, look at that.
Mozart is Austrian. Freud is Austrian, and many others.
Oh, thank you. See, we didn't know that. Amazing. And so you speak, that would be German?
It's a bit touchy, yeah, because we're 8 million people, and the Germans are 80 million people. So we're a tiny little country, and unfortunately, we speak the same language. But the way we see it, they speak our language. So it's a rivalry, but we are just 8 million people, so it's.
Oh, all right, I got it. I've been meeting some Austrians here in Greece. And so I feel like I never knew anything about Austria, but I feel like I know a lot more today than I did like 1 year ago. And Austrians, I mean, the ones I've met here, they really love Greece. So there must be some, I know you love Greece too. We talked about this on your show.
I love Greece a lot, and I think Austrians are a bit more, compared to Germans, usually a bit more relaxed, a bit more funny. So there's definitely a cultural difference, and we see it bigger. Outside people, of course, see it smaller. Europeans are Europeans for you Americans, but actually we think there's difference between Italians, Swedish, Germans, and so forth. But okay.
Of course, yes. Okay, cool. So, Philip, I have some icebreaker questions I always ask. Let's see if you have the answer to them. Don't know. We'll see. So the first question I always ask is around your astrology. If you know your sun, moon, and rising, or just you probably know your sun sign. Sun sign would be like your zodiac. If you tell me your birthday, I could tell you it.
I'm a November guy. I think I'm a Scorpion. Is that right?
Scorpio. Yeah. Okay. Scorpio.
Right.
Do you know
I'm
anything
very
about?
bad in astrology.
That's fine. Do you know anything about Scorpios? Do you resonate with any of it?
I know that what people say, I mean, the general stuff that people say about Scorpios, I don't know if it's true for me or not, but everybody always thinks, of course you're a Scorpion, but maybe I am a typical Scorpion. Only thing I know is that in Chinese I'm a red, and somebody told me the combination Scorpion and red means wherever you walk, there will never be grass again. So I'm not so sure if I'm happy with that. So that's my astrology I can give you. That's my entire knowledge. And basically, I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
you tell me.
Yeah. I mean, I've only, known you for a little bit through podcasting, but Scorpio transformation, they're big on transformation. Scorpios can be like very comfortable with maybe like taboo concepts that some people aren't. They can be comfortable with like the concept of death or, like the darker side of things. they're one of the water signs, which means they're feeling a lot. Although it may be like kind of a bit hidden. I find with Scorpios, they tend to have a bit of a, um, they're private. They're not super public with with what's going on. Does any of that sound resonant?
Couldn't possibly say. I'm trying not to look too much in the mirror. I'm teaching meditation for more than 30 years, and it's all about looking in the mirror in a sense. So I don't know. I'm trying to just go with the flow recently because after 30 years looking deep inside, maybe I look too deep and too much.
Mm,
So now,
that would be very scorpionic.
yeah, yeah. So
All
maybe now I don't know who am I anymore. That's maybe the correct answer.
right.
I've lost myself on the way, but in a good way, I think, not in a bad way. And I've changed my life so many times. I lived in many different countries, and I've done so many different professions and things. And you rebuild your social environment, and then you go to a new country, and you again, as you're doing it right now, it
Mhm.
is every time you something stays back, something you take with you, and something new comes in. We talk about personality, and I've done this now at least more than 10 times. So I think I'm definitely shredded in a way, and also found maybe the little core inside of me for all these journeys. And it's definitely an experience to move to different countries to meet new people. But at some point, you also think I've moved enough in a way, at
So
least mentally.
yeah, so you've moved at least 10 times. Is that what I just understood? Yeah, wow.
Somehow I have to count if you want to know precisely,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's enough.
Okay.
It's enough.
Lots of change, lots of sort of like stepping into a new identity. Um, I took a look at let's say your your bio, and you have done many things, Philip, many,
Oh
many
wow.
things.
Yeah.
It seems you're multi-passionate, which is amazing, and I think a lot of people listening will resonate with being multi-passionate and what that's like. So I'd like to start just there. Maybe start with, I know it would be difficult to give us your full story, but if you can give us a synopsis of your story and maybe more importantly, like at this point in your life, the through lines you found as someone who's multi-passionate, who's a serial entrepreneur, who's moved a lot. What is the through line that you found now?
That's exactly the problem with people like me. All of it are true lines, and that's exactly why guys like me live the way they are, and that because we are multi-layered at any given time. I right now have a hobby. I have a small vinegar production. It's just a hobby. I run several companies in different countries. I usually have meditation groups, and I do a podcast. I write books. I'm now making AI apps. And but I have my companies are real world companies, production, employees, branches, and this is just a fraction of what I do on any given time. So people like me better never ask for that. One podcast guest told me once that he's a person like me, and he said it's easier to ask me what I'm not doing than to ask me what I'm doing. And I stole this line from that person because I thought, whoa, that's exactly who am I. It's most probably easier to list all the things that I haven't done than the things I have done. But you know, the thing is, I feel relaxed and centered when I do 10 things at the same time. This is when I'm completely in harmony and in my own. Um, this is um, this is when I feel very good about stuff. And the thing is, I have to say is I finish things because always, oh, you're trying 100 things. I said, no, no, I do them, I finish, I take them through. This is impossible. Yeah, but that's who am I in a sense? And
Mhm.
sometimes I start one string and then maybe it stays there for a year or 2 or 5 years and then just pick it up and continue it further. So that's basically, but friends who know me well, they say, I know when you sit down and tell me one of your next crazy idea, one thing I know for absolute certainty, you actually are going to pull this through. And that's also some compliment I got some years back, and I'm getting it over and over from friends I meet. And I actually appreciate that because once you're in the wheel, you don't realize. But I think I'm proud on that. If I have a wake up one morning and have an idea like, oh, let's start a podcast. And I never heard a podcast in my life. I didn't know what is a podcast. I just got up in the morning and said to my wife, I'm starting a podcast. And she's like, yeah, okay. And I made a podcast and now I'm 130 episodes. It's
Yeah.
um it's just how I roll.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. I find, you know, probably listeners that are multi-passionate, not all of them have the tendency to follow through. And I don't think it makes one thing right or wrong. It's just, it's incredible, your capacity to do so. Um, I want to stick on this for a minute because I think people will learn something. Was there ever a time for you, Philip, when you sort of fought back against your own nature to be multi-passionate? Like, was there ever a time where you were like, gosh, I wish I could just focus on one thing?
Every day of my life.
But it sounds like you accept it now, so it can't be every day.
It is every day of my life. Every single day. Every single day. No, this way I choose life can be amazing when everything works out. And I had times in my life where I made like serious amounts of money. And, then of course, best life ever. But then there are hard times when some projects don't work out. And when you're an entrepreneur, you don't get you're on your own. You have to provide. And when you try and invest into five different projects and maybe all of them fail at the same time, well, that's not funny. So, of course, I'm always envy people who have a regular job. Every single day, I see people in the morning go to work, and I'm jealous on each and every single person that they don't have that my craziness inside of me, that they can find happiness, that they can find content by just going there, working, going home, doing their thing.
Mm.
It's unbelievable how jealous I am on these people, but I can't make it happen. I can only dream. And on the other hand, it's so funny when some of my friends tell me, "Oh, I've got this big dream. One day I want to open this company, and if things and the stars align." I said, "Come on, let's do it today. What are you talking about? It's done. I mean, we're finished by the afternoon." But the financing said, "Come on, stop that nonsense. We build a structure. Come on, let's do this. It's just another company. I open usually 2 to 3 companies a year. What the hell is one more?" So
Mhm.
it's so crazy when I realize how complicated it seems for me to people. All that I want to move to a different country. Well, move. you know, it it is a no event for me to
Yeah.
just take everything and move to a different country. I just go. And so it's interesting how we are both, they want to be more flexible. I would love to be stuck. I can't be stuck. And a lot of people, it's very hard to be flexible. So at the end, we have to accept that we are who we are and make peace with it in ourselves. And I'm trying to be more stable. I'm trying to be more. I have a daughter now. She's 12. That's why I wrote the book about spirituality. So I'm for her sake, I have to be at least until she goes to university. I have to stay in the same city for her sake. I want to give her stability. I know it's important. I want to do this. So me and my wife have decided to stay here in this town for that time that she needs to finish her high school. Is that correct in the US? High school,
Mhm.
right? Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so that's basically I have to, but okay, we'll make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's amazing. I mean, I can understand that you quote unquote wish you could walk into a 9 to 5 and be happy with it. But at the same time you don't, because you wouldn't be happy with it. Um, and what's really beautiful is like the capacity to, or the ability to like believe in possibility, right? That's the thing that most people struggle with, right? When you're like, oh, just they're like, I wish I could move here, and you're like, okay, so move. To you, that's very normalized. It's like things are possible, and to others, it is impossible. And so I'm curious for
But
you.
just tell me, what on earth could possibly go wrong? I don't understand. You move and then you're there and you're gonna make it work. I mean, it's gonna be difficult. Maybe it's gonna be smooth. How do I know? But why would you die, or why would you die from hunger? I mean, you're not gonna go to some. I mean, I don't understand the problem. The problem is imaginary. That is for sure, in my
Of
belief.
course. It's created. It's created by self. Um, and you don't have a block there. We all have our blocks in different places. But I'm curious for you, like, were you born thinking everything was possible? Did you learn that from your parents? No, okay. You just came
Maybe,
out
who
of
do
the
I know? I mean, that's a question I can't really answer. My background, I come from a business family. I have, so to say, two mothers, two fathers, because I got divorced very young. So I'm happy that I always say two mothers, two fathers, a lot of uncles and aunts. So I have a rather large family, and I'm the only child all the way around. So it's a very big family, and there's only one child, and that's me. And each and every family member is an entrepreneur, all
Ah,
of them.
okay.
My mother was one of the first person who in her field, she was really like, it was unusual that women opening companies back in the 50s. And she had when I was born 18 employees, which was very unusual for women. So she
Yeah.
was a successful woman, and she did a lot. And so my whole family is entrepreneurs, so I've never seen anything else since I grown up. Most probably it has an effect on
Yeah,
me,
of course it does. Yeah. And I
but
imagine being the only child, just a guess, but generally only children are kind of like, I don't know, like prized
wouldn't
because
say that
everyone's
because in my
excited to.
family I have 20 workaholics in my family. So
Wow.
I learned very young to cook my own food.
Mm.
Nobody was ever at home. I had an amazingly beautiful apartment, which was empty always because, people get up at 5 in the morning, people come home at 10 at night because everybody was working all the time. And basically, I had to be self-sufficient very early on. And that's why I also made my own decision to go to a boarding school because it was boring being in this amazing apartment by myself. So I went to a boarding school and to have at least something.
Have
But no,
community.
I don't complain on my childhood, but I don't know if I was the center of attention. I
Mhm.
wouldn't think so. First of all, I'm born in the 70s, and children were not so important as today.
Mhm.
That's maybe an interesting topic, that kids were on the side, and nobody gives a damn about the kids or made a fuss. It was just not so important, and parents had their own life, did their own thing, and kids were expected to fall in place. So that's something that has changed completely. I mean, look at now, most people in Europe, when they buy apartments, the big room, which is called the master bedroom, is always going to the kids. And
Oh,
most parents now taking like the small room. It used to be the children room in the apartments
hmm.
because the parents think, well, it's much better if the children have the big room where they can play and have their toys instead of having a small room to sleep and the toys are in the living room. So it makes a lot of sense that you give the master bedroom to the kids. But I think it's a much deeper message how we
Mhm.
all have changed and how we focus on children. And in my childhood, basically, it was not bad or rough or anything, but there was definitely no fussing about or just overprotective. I mean, I've it was regular for me very young age, especially in our house outside of the city. There is a huge swamp and it goes on for miles and miles. I just took a little boat in the morning and said, "Hey, I'm going to the swamp," and I came back when the lights were off and there were no mobile phones, there were nothing. And there are snakes, there's everything. So this is like a huge swamp, and in a million years you would have not be able to find me if something would have happened to me.
Mhm.
Not in a million years. It's like it's a massive swamp, and there were hundreds of channels. And I took my boat and I just went the whole day, and I came back in the evening. And no one ever bothered to think if I'm safe or not.
Really?
It's
Yeah.
just a kid. If it's broken, make another one. I don't know. It's just one of many. Who cares?
It was a different time, but hey, like
Different time.
it certainly contributed to your like can-do beliefs and what you've created for your life.
Yeah.
And I'm curious.
Sorry, but it had good and bad the times. It had good and bad, and we've moved on, and I moved on, we all moved on. But it's really worth the reflecting on it that we also grew up, and we also grew up as humans. So I think it will be part of a discussion because this book about spirituality, of course, has a lot of elements that look what is too much, what is too little, and how to give children some kind of authenticity.
So,
So
with respect to your book, Spiritual Parenting, I'm curious, like, what sparked you to want to write the book? Tell us about, you said you have a daughter. Tell us a little bit about the birth of the book.
So first of all, I always like to say this is not a parenting guide. It's really important to me that people don't perceive it that way. It's really a book that asks the question, if you care for spirituality, if spirituality is very important to you, and you look at your child, you look at the next generation, it can be a grandparent, it can be an educator, it can be the parents, but if you care for their spirit life and you want to do whatever little or much you can do to help them maybe find their way to spirituality, this is just the beginning of the book that I ask myself with my own daughter, what could I possibly contribute so that she will also wake up one day and care as much as I do about spirituality. And this started a whole search and soul searching and many which ways, and whatever I found also as the background as meditation teacher. So all the ideas that I found that are packed in this book. And this book is basically in two parts. The first half, or more than half, is really looking at us as the parent or the educator or the grandparents, whoever we are. And it puts a very strong look in the mirror, who we are, where we are, and a little bit check the situation with ourselves. And the second half looks at the child, very practical and easy tips, what one can do just to demonstrate the methodology that I am presenting in the first half. It's more about a methodology than anything else.
And to you, because the word spirituality, the concept spirituality, it's a little bit like it can feel very abstract. To you, what does it mean to like care for the spiritual health of your child? What does that mean to you?
It's number one, the number one question. And of course, as you said, everybody has its own definition about spirituality, and I accept every definition that people have if they are in light and love. For me, spirituality simply means search. It's that inner feeling that we search for answers, the big questions, where we're from, where we're going, this openness to find and to seek and to search. That is what I define as spirituality, this path within the search. That is for me how I see spirituality.
It's really beautiful. I love that. And for you to want to support that in your child, it first became important in your own life. So I'm curious, when did spirituality take up space in your life? Was it from a young age? Was it more recent? Yeah, okay.
No, I'm one of those guys who started basically on zero. Uh,
Okay.
I started so early with spirituality, basically right from the beginning, and I had my own first meditation group that I was leading with 17 and a half. I
Okay.
already had the education as meditation teacher and already had my first group. So this gives you an idea. And I remember when we had in high first year of high school in religion, everybody has supposed to give a lecture on something religious, and everybody talked a little bit about the Bible and Jesus and whatever. And I went out there and talked 1 hour about 17th century Masonic symbols because I already read like tons of book about secret societies and organizations and studied symbolism. So I was a early bird, and of course that religious teacher never called on me ever again. But that's an entirely different story.
And so you always had this sort of seeking. I mean, I suppose we always have, but you acted on it. Um, and is it something that, was there a time in your life where you were following a particular religion, or have you always been sort of making your own way? How has that looked?
This is such a nice question. Thank you, because I really wonder about this a lot the last couple of weeks myself, trying to understand this about me. And so it's a work in progress answer. It's not a definite answer.
Isn't
I
it
can
always?
give you what,
Yeah.
I'm coming from a Catholic country. Austria is one of the strong Catholic countries in the world. And and I went to a Catholic boarding school, so I'm raised by monks. So that's and I was there an altar boy, so I had a full-blown education with weekly trainings and Bible studies and the whole shebang. But pretty early on, maybe 14, I cannot remember the precise date, I decided to become an agnostic, still being in the monastery. And I went to the priest who was hosting the altar boys, and I told this man, I'm decided now to be an agnostic. And he said, that's all right. You can stay here. You can become, you can stay with the group. You can stay.
And
Go.
can you just share for listeners agnostic what it means? Not everyone's
Uh,
gonna.
Agnostic is a person that is not certain about the final answer. It's very
However, however they believe in something, right? Like opposed to atheist, where it's like we've decided.
no. That's a. Let me make this clear. Atheists are absolutely certain God does not exist, which I think is ridiculous because something can or cannot exist if it exists or don't exist. You can only switch on and off the light if light is there. So if you're sure that something doesn't exist, it has to exist in the first place to not exist.
Oh, logical
So for
fallacy.
me, this is a non-position. Agnostics are simply uncertain of shape or form. They also not sure if a higher being exists, but they would accept that it could exist or might exist. They are simply do not know. That is just a position that we don't know. But there's a lot of individual definitions, but it's more or less a quite accepted definition.
Interesting. I always thought agnostic was a belief in something, something bigger than
Could
self.
be,
Okay,
could
so
be.
you went up to your priest or whatever and you said, "Hey, this is what I've decided." And he said, "That's okay."
That's okay.
Hmm.
And I think this was the most important thing now looking back. At the time, it didn't mean nothing to me. But now, almost 30 years later, maybe this was one of the most important sentences in my life. I'm sure if that priest would have reacted differently, and any other priest might have, especially in the time and in the setting and the Catholic. So they were quite tough, these priests, and I mean, quite tough fellows. But this particular priest, he was young, he was highly educated, and definitely I had really big luck that I went to him with this statement that he said, "Oh, that's okay, that's okay." And so I couldn't be angry on the church, or I couldn't, be anti-church,
Mhm.
because the priest says it's okay. I can still be an altar boy. I can still be part of the group or whatever, even if I don't take, even if I have my position. So it did a lot of good and healing that he accepted it. And I think he was a true believer, and he thought ultimately I will find the right path and ultimately I will come back home. So he had this warmth, although he was young, he had the knowledge and understanding. If that young boy is studying so hard, if the young boy is so interested in all of these things, I have already been quite interested in studying quite hard, and he comes to this position, well, let him be. So this is maybe the single most important element in that whole journey. But I just come to understand this maybe a couple of months or a year or so back. Uh, so this is a very new development to understand that this was extremely important, how you react when somebody says something like that.
Okay, so it was really like, I love that. It kind of it didn't make you feel trapped or pressured or outcast or anything like that. It allowed you like full reign to explore that relationship. And so from there, where did it go from there? Do you still, identify as agnostic or
Yeah, well, first of all, I then did not what other people do. I did not go around into Buddhism and go there and there and there. I did not in a certain way, although I went to a lot of workshops and seminars, and I'm part of the spiritual community for more than 30 years now, mainly of having centers and hosting events and whatever. So, but I really went inside. So that's a totally different thing. I didn't look so much to find salvation through Buddhism or find it through there. I just really went inside and listened and tried to find the light within, and less reading in a way and less following other paths, and more an inward journey to try to reflect and to understand from within. So this is the hard way or the slow way or whatever, the lonely way, however you put it. And I think it served me well because ultimately that's how I found some answers within me.
Mm.
And again, the birth of my child was another important element because, they started asking questions, who is God and things like that. And then you realize that I was lucky that I still have some Christian answers and I value their position a lot. And so this was a good thing. And now I'm calling myself a liberal agnostic. So this is basically the person that is super happy with the idea that there is some higher source, there is a God. That would be nice. I still don't say God exists for certainty, but I say it would be really nice if he did. So that's the movement. So ask me another 5 years, and maybe I will change again. But so I'm very relaxed about the whole thing finally. And my daughter sometimes likes to go to church, and I go with her, and I'm completely fine with it. And I'm supporting it if she feels like that's what she want to do, or put some candles and things like that we do in Europe and in the Orthodox world where she lives now. And so basically, I'm I'm completely open and up for anything, and this is a good place for me to be at this juncture.
Beautiful. And Philip, I feel like what you're speaking to is kind of a movement that I sense is happening collectively around God, spirituality, whatever you want to say. And it's that it is starting from within rather than from without. Whereas, let's say previously it started from without. The problem with that is then you are easily controlled, manipulated by things that are not actually from God, that are, things that are created by man who has ego, man who has whatever going on. And now I'm seeing this return to going within, knowing thyself. And once you know thyself, then you meet God because we are an extension of God in my belief system. We're an extension of God. So once I go within and find this within myself, this is connection. And from there, we can see religion, rituals, all these different things that are happening, and we can discern whether or not they feel right, they feel good, they feel true to us, rather than the other way around where we're like kind of told truth, and regardless of how we feel about it, we're like, okay, well, I'm part of this religion, so okay. um so anyway, thank you for sharing. I think that's a really beautiful pathway, and I would love to hear how, maybe through the book or in practice, how you are guiding how are you parenting from that lens to support her in finding her spirituality.
Absolutely. So we said that for me, spirituality is about our search. And if that's the beginning of my thinking, then we have to understand what enables you to be open to search and feel safe to search and have the curiosity and be able to express this curiosity. So this is the stuff I'm focusing quite a lot. Not everybody sees the immediate connection with spirituality, but I do, and I think it's clearly there. If you give the kid or your child the possibility to ask question, to explore, to maneuver around and to build up all the sensitivities and these curiosities, I believe that then if she asks the bigger questions naturally, she will have the inner strengths and to tackle it and to give herself the right to ask these questions and explore these questions. So this is basically my starting point. And
Mhm.
therefore, I look at ourselves as the parent who play a crucial role because if you tell any parent, that kids copy our behavior, they're like, yeah, 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 I know. But then when you sit with them down and slow them down, say, okay, let's look at behavior. And when we just say something simple like when we tell our kids, give away the phone, less screen time, but we are staring all the time in the phone. So we
Mhm.
say, I'm adult, I have the right to do it, but it's not good for the kid. Well,
Right,
this doesn't work, right?
right.
And there's so many things that we say. We tell our kid, be good, be kind, share with others, and then we coming home and telling how we are putting our elbows to get ahead in the job, and how we did a little bit something to get the colleague on the side and get some bonus with the boss. And we want to bring more money. Yeah, that's okay. But then we tell the kid, be kind, be nice. And the kid listens to both conversations and try to say, what is he talking? He's like a bully in the job trying to get ahead and telling me be nice. I mean, it doesn't work. So there's so many of these inconsistencies, which basically that's life and that's okay to have inconsistencies. But when it's piling up, it doesn't bring information security to the children. They don't know what's right or wrong. They don't know where we stand. So this is one of the big elements in this book, to look at what we say and what we do and check in if this is honest, if it's true. I mean, it's a big book, so I can't go for everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There, yeah.
Amazing. I, with respect to sort of fostering, nurturing the ability to ask questions, what does that look like as the parent? Is that sort of like, you know, making it feel safe? Like, what does it look like practically for the parent to help them feel safe to question, if that makes sense?
There's several elements. One, of course, is safety. I'm quite intensive about children's safety. It's especially mental safety. Of course, that's one of my key things. And I want that kids at all time feel safe to come with whatever problems they have to their parents, and to bring the foundation and do the groundwork that they are sure that they can come to me even if they did something wrong, even if they did something illegal or bad or whatever, that they can, in any case, find safety in confiding with me. So that is number one, right? And with curiosity, that's a more different and more simple thing. It's just being alert, being aware. When your kids start talking about, I don't know, some animals and see some interest, well, let's go on a weekend to some museum where you have natural science and animals, and a little bit go with the flow. If the kids talks about stones and crystals and magic, oh, let's go, and let's go to the forest and knock on some stones, and let's see if we find a crystal. Most probably not, but it doesn't matter for the child if we find it or if we didn't find it.
Right.
But the fact that we jumping on it, we can't jump on everything, but it is, you could try very much to listen and nurture that curiosity. And of course, in our age of mobile phones and so forth, it's most important to bring us real world experiences as much as you can, because that is a big element in my book that we have to counterweight. I'm not against artificial intelligence. I'm not against into phones or whatever. I just say it just cannot be out of balance. Right. So we have to consciously counterweight with real world activities so that it's both in balance. Things like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Amazing. So I'm curious. I'm not a parent, but I can imagine children, we are all easily influenced, okay? But especially children, easily influenced. And now you have phones. There's like a bigger, they are exposed to way more than you and I were, for example, as children. And with respect to spirituality, how will you, or how do you address a child maybe being influenced by people that are not you and your wife around faith? Like, perhaps her best friend is Orthodox Christian, so she feels she should be, you know what I mean? Something like that.
That's exactly what we had.
Oh, okay.
It is precisely what we had right in the kindergarten, or I call it daycare in American, right?
We have first of all,
All right.
I'm Canadian, Philip.
Yeah, I know. But your audience, is for Canadian too.
Yeah,
so
no,
you Canadians have kindergarten?
Kindergarten is real, yes.
All right, okay. So it was exactly as I said. I'm agnostic and so on and so forth. And this happened early on, that her best friend in kindergarten comes from a super Christian family and is like push, 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 push to the maximum, basically to the extreme, in a sense. Not the absolute extreme, but pretty much out there. And everything is forbidden or la 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 or whatever. So, the full program. And me and my wife had to sit down and just talk it through what to do with this. And we pretty quick said, let's just let it run. Let's just take it its course, because we live away in the house that we live. We do the things the way they live. Our families do the things the way they do. And okay, she's experiencing it now. She's hearing those ideas, and she want to test them. She want to confront us with these ideas, and let's keep it light. Let's keep it easy, and let it take its natural course. So that's the way, basically, how we dealt with it. And I think it was a good way. And she asked, because that girl, her best friend in kindergarten, you must go to church, you must do this, you must go to church. And so she said to me, like, can we go to the church? And I said, yeah, sure, sure, no problem.
Mhm.
Let's have a look. Come on, let's go. And so she was happy and delighted, and she went there, and that girl taught her how to make the cross or whatever she told her, and then to say something with the candle or to kiss some iconas. It's
Mhm.
Orthodox to kiss that stuff and this and that. And she was so happy that she could do all of this and felt really grown up and important. And we were happy to let her have this experience. And in a sense, I felt, not threatened or anything, and I knew it will take its natural course. And if that's her path, that's her path. But I didn't expect this will be a long-term, long-term event.
But like essentially essentially what you're doing is you're allowing her to make choices, and in her being allowed to make choices, the things that will not feel right for her, eventually she won't choose them. Whereas, like if we try to control someone's choices, then they might allow themselves to be controlled. Um,
There you
Amazing.
go. There you have
Really,
spiritual parenting.
yeah, that's
I mean,
beautiful.
that's what it is. If you want, I can give you another one if you have the time.
Of course, yeah.
An example. That's a more complicated one. But when she was third or fourth year in school, when she started school, she was part of a group, right? A group of friends, and there was one girl who was truly a bully. She is really very controlling and so on and so forth, and she has family issues. They are divorced, and mother and fathers are fighting. So the girl has a lot of package, and she's trying to live it out by controlling others. And that's, what it is. And it was okay. It was okay. My wife and I were worried, but it was, within the boundaries. And in some moment, it just got overwhelmed. And she was very much making fun of her new shoes. They're not the right brand. She was making fun of this and fun of that. So you could see she was unhappy. So I really thought this through. And then I started sneakily, clandestine, to have random conversation with her, just like, hey, what you think a good friend should be.
I
And I
see.
let her explain me what she thinks a good friend should be. And this was going on over like 2 or 3 weeks. I never mentioned the school. I never mentioned that girl.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
just, from time to time in the car or whatever, just ask
Philosophically,
her
yeah.
what friendship is all about, what
Mhm.
friendship means to you, what it means to have a good friend, to be a good friend, and something like that. And then after I think 2 weeks or so, she came to me and said she decided to leave the group, and I thought, oh wow, are you sure this is the right thing? Yes, they're not nice to me, and I don't feel well, and so on and so on. I thought, ah, great. But then the next days were horrible because
Oh,
she was alone. She
no.
didn't have a group, and me and my wife thought, oh my God, what have we done?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
we were suffering more than her, being
Yeah.
alone in the schoolyard, and we were like, the parents are dying. And then a couple next week or so, she said, oh, she found a new group, and things happened. And I thought, okay, that's good, that's nice. And a couple of days later, she even came to me and said, I made a decision. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? I want to be friend with every group. I
Oh,
said,
well,
okay, wow, that's a good luck there,
yeah, yeah. Confidence. I love it.
So this is also some of the stories about how I believe a lot that parents should be sly. I believe a lot of parents should be sneaky and should try, on the back end to prepare the ground. That's so
Right.
I believe in sneaky parenting.
I mean, really, like it again, it's like building the ability to question and to reflect, right? Which is spirituality as you describe it, is to be able to search, reflect, all that sort of thing, and
And also
asking questions. Hmm.
victimhood, something I don't like at all. I don't like the concept of being a victim. And this is so far spread these days because so many people are, and I know a lot of people had a bad childhood, but not everything can be related back to it. And a lot of people have a bad job, but not everything can relate to it. And it's all about taking responsibility as far as you can, and stand, and not only standing up for yourself, but just to make the space for yourself, and don't blame others except when others are truly guilty. Of course, when you're part of a car crash and you're not the driver,
Mhm.
you're clearly, it's not your responsibility. But nevertheless, I think a lot of things in our life should be in the driver's seat. And for me, it's very important that she takes charge of her well-being, physically, personally, health-wise, but also mentally, that she goes to a place that's good for her. And the biggest portion in my book is about life balance, life energy, so that we take care, because people all the time measure how much water am I drinking, how many vitamins I'm taking. So people measure everything. But if you ask people, did you look today of your life energy? Did you, how much went out and how much went in? Did you take care? And people look at me, I mean, which app is measuring life energy? What you're talking about? But actually, it's the one true thing to be sure that you give and take energy wise in the right proportion. For me, this is the key of the spiritual parenting book. That first we learn to look at our own life energy, and then we teach our kids slowly that it makes sure that it takes care of her own energy and doesn't waste it, or that there's a good out and inflow. That for me is a super important part of the happiness, and to be protected.
Incredible. I'm just imagining a generation of children understanding their own energy. We weren't taught that. So, and most women and the women that I work with, we all people please and we all are like taking care of everything. And then at some point in life, we have to return to self and pull back all of our energy. But gosh, imagine children learning their energy capacity, and it's going to be different for everyone. And so it's something so, gosh, you're painting a beautiful picture for the future if that's
But
the
it's hard. It's hard in practice, because if you're a parent of such a child, you must accept that she'll have a little bit her own mind.
of course.
And you must understand that you need to work out conflicts, because once you train your kid to be a person, well, then it's a person. And it will say no and it will say yes. And this, makes parenting a lot more difficult in a way, especially, this needs a lot of care and understanding, that if you give a kid the right to have its own mind, well, then it has its own mind.
Mhm.
And then it might contradict with your own
Yeah.
wishes and your own ideas at a certain moment. And then you have not only the conflict with your partner, she might to go on the beach, you might to go on the mountain, and the kid want to go to the Luna Park. And then the whole thing is really scrambled because we don't know where the car is going. I want to go to the mountain, they want to go to the beach, and you want to go to Luna Park. So where are we going? So it, of course, makes the whole thing a bit more complicated. But
Mhm.
by the end, it's all about finding compromises. But I just want to say it's not an easy, it's a beautiful idea if we
Mhm.
grow up kids who are a bit, stronger or self-aware, but we must also understand that we need to have more effort in navigating the fact that we have one more person sitting on the kitchen table and putting up the hand and say, I actually don't want this at all
Absolutely.
that weekend.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't care for your friends.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't
No
want.
one's gonna hug that person. Yeah. And okay, so this makes me think because, I mean, children, they are souls, beautiful souls that have come into this world, and generally they're a lot closer to their essence they're because a lot of the programming hasn't come online, all that sort of thing. And so I'm curious, and I'm sure that that you've learned something from your daughter, that she has taught you something, becoming her own person.
I would lie if I say yes. Maybe I'm not aware of it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I would
Interesting. I
lie.
thought for sure that would come up from writing the book because I feel like sometimes I'm not a mother, but there are children in my life, and sometimes the things they say, I'm like, oh my gosh, they get it, and I didn't get it. TBD. TBD. All right, fair enough. Fair enough, Philip. Okay.
But maybe I'm not a good attention a person who keeps a good attention. Could be.
Your daughter's going to listen to this and be like, I've taught you so much. I wrote that book. No. Um,
Oh, that's for sure. She's asked how much she gets from the copyrights.
oh, good
That's all
for
she cares.
her.
It's a new generation.
Okay. Well, Philip, this has been a great conversation. Like I said, I'm not a parent, but I obviously, there are a lot of parents in my lives, a lot of parents as listeners, and I think that there is a much more conscious parenting movement at play. There are just more tools for it. There's more, spirituality is more accepted than it ever was. And so, what an important time for your work to come out. Before we wrap up, is there any last message from your experience, from your teachings that you'd like to share with the audience?
Sure. I think that it's a general statement. It might not apply to everybody listening, but what I'm taking really great care, and I see that this is becoming rarer. We are still hosting people, we are still making barbecues, we're still very social, and we're taking the effort, especially with kids. We're having them over, friends, couple times a year, and stuff like that. And I see that less and less of my friends and the school groups where my daughter is, less and less people want to do the effort. Less and less people. I can see that this phones and social media and all of it, and maybe also post-corona, that people a little bit went back into their home, built their little castle, and shielding themselves. So that social elements I see is drifting apart, and we are still trying to keep the flame going. And people have such a gratitude when we organize something and it's a big barbecue, and mothers and fathers from the school coming together, and then, oh my God, you did the effort. Oh my God, you did all of it. And yeah, it is effort. It needs time, energy, and also money to bring everybody and host them. But in the end, it's very rewarding. And I just, I just want to just put the idea out there, just stay in times like this, make barbecues, have friends over, cook together, do these things, puzzle night, whatever it is. We have to, again, the balance, if we have to balance that technology. Technology is not bad, but it overruns us, overtakes us, then definitely this is a real danger here that I see. So keeping that reality awake and keeping those simple human connections awake, that for me is something I'm would like to share for those people who've maybe a little forgotten that what how much chaos it is to have friends over.
Yeah, yeah. I think what you're speaking to is very relevant and timely because I think, sometimes when we do a lot of work on ourselves, when we're working on conserving our energy, all this sort of thing, there are a lot of inputs in the world, we feel overwhelmed. There's a bit of a pullback from socializing because of that. However, like, we are not healed and happy in a silo. Like, eventually we need to, like, be out in the world connecting with others. And so, yeah, bringing that balance back in. And I saw this post the other day, and someone was saying having community isn't convenient. And there's like almost been this, people are connecting less because it's not convenient. And I know that I am definitely guilty of this. And yet, if you really want true community and true connection, you gotta, like, things are going to be inconvenient sometimes. Showing up to a barbecue might not be convenient for that day at that time for you, but that is how we keep community and keep real connection.
And especially if we look at kids, if we don't teach them how to be a host or how to be a guest, if they don't learn these basic skills, I mean, it's a big skill, it's a big social skill to go somewhere and behave there nice and correctly and, bring a present or whatever. It's a big thing to know to dress up or whatever. It's a big thing to know how to move in society. And it's also a very big thing to be a host. And I told her so many times, you're the host now. This is now your role. So the kids can decide what they want to play. You're not like, the dictator and we play only my games. You have to
Right.
make everyone feel comfortable. And sometimes in the beginning, I had to come to her and say, look, that one kid is shy in the other room. Why don't you go? You're the host. Tell her, hey, come and play with us. And she's like, oh, I don't know. He don't want to come to us. I said, just go nicely and try to ask him. I don't need to do this anymore.
Mhm.
My daughter is a great host now. She will make sure everybody feels comfortable, everybody feels welcome. She will try to involve all her kids, even if she don't know the kids. If they come from new friends and they're the first time, she will try to bring them in, and she will make sure everybody, she will hold space for her friends. And exactly that's what I wanted to give her, that ability, that social thing that we all used to learn. When I was a kid, it was normal. We all had friends. We all were guests. We knew how to behave, and we knew what to do in these circumstances. And this is getting lost. You have to
Mhm.
understand this generation is losing that ability, this basic social skills. Ask to teachers what's going on out there. People really are losing basic human skills, and that cannot be good in my understanding. And you
Mhm.
could say, well, never mind, when they grow up, they learn. Yes, but why not to do it while they're still young? It comes natural, and it is a gift for life to be able to move in society. And I think it's a very valuable gift. And this is just one of the elements. Also, to bring them to music concerts. And it doesn't have to be whatever is the right way for you. But again, how to learn how to be there, to be in a group, take care of yourself, to understand safety in a group, and these are all those things that it's unbelievable, but the kids are not learning the skills anymore.
Right. Yeah. I
And
mean, it is believable given that the world has sort of been reduced to a screen you hold in your hand. Um, anyway, thank you.
that's it.
Um, Philip, finally, how can people like learn more from you, connect with you, that sort of thing?
Sure, absolutely. And I've got a lovely website. I'm sure you'll put the link down there, and it goes to my podcast, it goes to some services, and it goes, of course, to the book that you can buy on Amazon. And I think that's the best way to get started. Start with the website and take it from there. I'm looking forward to hearing comments, and can't wait the episode to be out on your channel, how people will reflect and react. And I'm open for debate. Not everybody has to like what I have to say. I can only, give the contribution that I can give, but I'm happy and open to hear people tell me, oh no, it's completely wrong. I'm more than welcome.
You're here for questions and conversations, right?
Anytime,
Yeah.
anytime.
Amazing. Well, thank you for coming on, and great to connect with you again. Roles Reversed and Spirit Club. Thank you for listening. Until next time. Bye.